there, I'm Nina from NET, and today we're going to take a look at advertisements, photography and logos, such as the very well-known KFC brand logo. We are busy with the lesson 4 for NSCC AS Art and Design, and as you've heard, photography and graphic design will be our topic for today. But before the sun burns me to a crisp, let's get back into the Namco studio and meet Mel, our photographer. I would like to welcome to the studio today Mel Botha. She's a photographer and a graphic design expert.
Thank you very much, Nina. Hi, everyone. And today I'll be telling you about photography and graphic design.
Yes, photography on AS level can be really tricky. It's not just a matter of pushing a button, if I'm correct. So Mel, did you hear about the photographer who first shot her husband? Then she drowned him, then she hanged him, and then she took him out to dinner.
I sure did hear about him. But fortunately, we don't work with film cameras anymore. We now use digital cameras, so it's a lot easier to print your pictures.
I'm sure it is. So our first learning objective today is to understand how photography as a lens-based media captures and creates images. To understand this objective, one first needs to know more about the equipment. You will need to take images of a high quality. I mean, a cell phone will not really do the trick. Am I right?
You certainly are.
Yes. So please tell us a bit more about all this photography equipment that we have here, that a learner will need to take excellent images which can speak to the viewer.
Well, first things first, you need to have a proper DSLR camera or a mirrorless camera. This Nikon is a very good example of an entry-level camera that you can use to take your pictures with.
Mm-hmm. Sure, why do you say that?
Well, you have the capability of taking pictures in RAW format, which gives you an image that is no smaller than 30 megabyte and makes it possible of a multitude of different editing capabilities afterwards. You will, of course, need to have high-resolution pictures for your AS level projects.
So, Mel, have you always been interested in photography?
Oh yes, I was about 12 years old and then I got a little film camera for Christmas from my parents one year. It was a little purple camera and I loved it so much. Unfortunately, it ended up costing my parents a fortune developing films.
Yes, that is really, really interesting.
Another thing that I would just like to highlight is when you take pictures with a DSLR camera, you also have the capability to set your shutter speed and you have the capability to set your exposure.
Wow, that really sounds interesting. Shall we take a look at some of your work?
Certainly. Medium shutter speed you generally use when you are taking portrait pictures of people or products. Non or slow-moving subjects. Fast shutter speed you would use when shooting fast-moving subjects, like a runner or people moving at a fast pace. Mm-hmm. In the example, you will see that with the right shutter speed, it is even possible to capture water droplets flying through the air.
How beautiful is that?
Here is an example of when the wrong shutter speed is used. The image on the left is blurred, whereas the image on the right is perfectly in focus.
Yo, that's so easy to see.
When setting your exposure on your camera, you need to consider how much light you have on your subject. This is an example of an underexposed and an overexposed photo. Mm-hmm. When combining your shutter speed and exposure settings in the correct format, you can even capture the stars. In this example, you can see the different types of photographs you can take with your 18 to 55 millimeter lens. Here is an image of a jetty zoomed out. Can you spot the penguin?
Oh, let me have a look. Oh yes, the red block.
This is the same jetty zoomed in on the penguin. The only way of capturing a subject from a far distance and still manage to have a crisp image is when you have the correct lens.
Surely it makes a huge difference.
And this is where my favorite part comes in. Taking macro pictures is quite an art. Without the correct lens, it is merely impossible to have a picture as crisp and in focus as we have here. You can even see the feet and wings on the insect.
Wow, that is so amazing. As you can see, dear viewers, without the proper equipment, you should reconsider choosing photography as a discipline for your AS coursework and examinations. Next up, we're going to take a look at graphic design. In graphic design, you will not only need your own images, but you also will need the correct software on your computer. Am I correct in saying this, Mel?
Yes, Nina, you are very correct. What I would recommend for any student is getting the Adobe Suite. The reason for this is because you have your Photoshop and you also have your graphic design tools that you can use.
So before we delve deeper into the discipline of graphic design, let's take a look at the learning objective regarding graphic design. Our learning objective for Discipline 5 is to understand how graphic design can sell a product or service, promote brands or causes through visual communication. So Mel, am I correct in assuming that colors and fonts and the shapes of what you use in your advertisements and logos are extremely important in getting your message across?
Oh yes, your colors, shapes and fonts could make or break your design. Try to plan everything in advance so you don't have to go back and redo anything. By planning, you can also take notes of every single step that you did and note it in your portfolio to make sure that you can show the examiners that it is your work and that you haven't done any plagiarism.
Yes, so basically from where you start, how you develop your ideas, how you plan it, you need to record it so that there's definitely a proof that you did this. And that is one of the most important things. So Mel, I'm looking forward to you shortly showing us how to do some graphic design.
Oh yes, I can't wait. Step 1 would be to choose your colors. Each industry has certain colors that work or don't work. You also need to consider the message you would like to bring across. In this logo, for example, we used violet, sky blue and grey. Violet represents creativity, inspiration, wisdom and power.
Wow.
Sky blue represents communication, trustworthy and productivity.
And you need that in a logo, that's for sure.
Definitely. And lastly, grey represents practicality and timelessness.
Sure.
Your step 2 would be to decide on a good readable font. It doesn't help you have a font that looks nice, but it isn't readable. That won't aid you in any way. Practical always overrules pretty. And lastly, shapes are what gives your design shape. A circle, for example, portrays positivity, and it generally is used for community and unity. As in our example, a triangle is the strongest shape, and therefore should be used to portray strength. Looking closer at the image, you will see it is both a door and an arrow.
Wow, now I noticed that.
The door encouraging you to take a step out and get out there. The arrow presenting the way forward for your business.
Well, the future is here, and for you as the AS level learner, you will need to know your cameras and you will need to know how to work on your graphic design software for you to ultimately reach a good degree. Thank you so much, Mel, for helping us today.
Oh, thank you, Nina. It has been such a delight to be here.
Thank you all for watching. Our next and final lesson will be on fashion and textile design. I can't wait to know more about this discipline.
Goodbye, everyone, and happy shooting!
Bye!